Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're moving from the what to the how. We're diving into machine learning categories and algorithms. In our previous sessions, we defined the general landscape. Today we're going to open the toolbox. We'll look at the specific methods, supervised and unsupervised learning, and see exactly how they apply to real engineering problems, like analyzing soil properties. By the end of this lecture, you won't just know the names of these algorithms, you'll understand which one to pick when you're facing a messy dataset. Here's our roadmap for this session. We'll start with the big picture, the 3 pillars of machine learning. Then we'll dive deep into supervised learning. We'll look at the workflow, an engineering example involving soil thermal conductivity, and the key algorithms like regression and neural networks. After that, we switch gears to unsupervised learning. We'll see how it differs, look at a soil stratification example, and discuss clustering algorithms. Finally, we'll wrap up with a summary table to help you decide which approach to use. There are 3 main pillars in the machine learning world. First, supervised learning. Think of this as learning with a teacher. You have the answer key, and you're training the model to get the right answers. Second, unsupervised learning. This is learning by self-discovery. There's no teacher and no answer key. The model has to find the patterns on its own. Third is reinforcement learning. This is learning by trial and error, interacting with an environment, much like how a robot learns to walk. For this course, and for most engineering data applications, we'll focus strictly on the first 2, supervised and unsupervised learning. Let's start with supervised learning. The best analogy here is teaching a child to walk. You hold their hand, you guide them, and when they stumble, you correct them. You're the supervisor. Technically, this means we train algorithms using labeled datasets. Look at the diagram on the right. We have an input, the data, and a label, the correct answer, in this case, cat. The model makes a prediction, compares it to that correct label, and adjusts itself to reduce the error. The ultimate goal is to take this trained model and predict outcomes for new, unseen data that doesn't have a label yet. This is the workflow you'll use in your Python projects. It happens in 2 distinct phases. First, the training phase. We take our historical data, for example, images of fruit paired with their names, we feed this into the algorithm. It processes this information and produces a trained model. Second, the prediction phase. Now we take that trained model and give it new data. Say, a picture of a banana that it's never seen before without a label. Using the rules it learned during training, the model outputs the prediction, banana. It sounds simple, but this is the core loop of most AI applications. How does this apply to engineering? Let's look at geotechnics. Imagine we want to predict the thermal conductivity, denoted by K, of a soil sample. Usually, measuring K requires expensive, time-consuming lab tests. Instead, we can use supervised learning. On the left, we have our features, or inputs. These are easier to measure. Porosity, denoted by N, saturation, denoted by S, dry density, denoted by gamma subscript D, and mineral content, like quartz. We feed these into the machine learning model. The model learns the complex nonlinear function connecting these physical properties to the conductivity. Once trained, you can predict K instantly just by knowing the basic density and porosity. Now, let's look at the algorithms inside the box. The simplest are linear models. On the left, you see linear regression. This assumes the relationship between your input and output is a straight line. We use this to predict continuous numbers, like temperature or price. On the right, we have logistic regression. Despite the name, this is used for classification, predicting categories. Notice the S-shaped curve. This is called a sigmoid function. It maps the output to a probability between 0 and 1. We use this to answer yes or no questions, like, is this slope stable? Or will there be a landslide? When the data gets too complex for a straight line, we use nonlinear algorithms. First, decision trees, shown on the left. These work like a flowchart. The model asks a series of yes or no questions to arrive at a conclusion. If we bundle many of these trees together to vote on the answer, we get a random forest, which is incredibly powerful. Second, on the right, neural networks. These are inspired by the biological neurons in the human brain. They consist of layers of interconnected nodes. These are the engines behind deep learning, capable of modeling extremely complex relationships, such as recognizing cracks in concrete from video footage. Finally, we have algorithms based on geometry, k-nearest neighbors, or KNN. The logic here is simple. Tell me who your neighbors are, and I'll tell you who you are. If a data point is surrounded by red dots, it's probably a red dot. Then there's SVM, or support vector machines, shown in the image. Imagine trying to draw a road between the red group and the blue group. SVM tries to find the hyperplane, that's the line in the middle, that creates the widest possible road or margin separating the classes. This makes the model very robust. Now, let's switch gears to unsupervised learning. Imagine I dump a bucket of mixed multicolored Lego bricks on the table, but I don't give you any instructions. I don't tell you which ones are red or blue. Your brain will naturally start grouping them. You might put the small ones together or the red ones together. This is unsupervised learning. We train on data without labels. The goal is not to predict a specific answer, but to discover hidden structure within the chaotic data. Here is the workflow. The input is unlabeled data. Think of it as a mixed fruit basket where we don't know the names of the fruits. The algorithm analyzes features like shape, color, and weight to find similarities. The output is clusters. For example, cluster 1 might contain round red objects. Cluster 2 contains long yellow objects. Crucially, the computer doesn't know these are apples and bananas. It just knows they're different. It's up to the human expert to interpret what these clusters actually represent. In engineering, this is incredibly useful for soil stratification. Look at this graph. It shows data from a cone penetration test, or CPT. The black line is the resistance, Q subscript C, measured as we drill down. We don't manually tell the computer, at 4 meters this is sand. Instead, we let the unsupervised algorithm group the data points that behave similarly. As you can see, the AI has automatically colored the layers: yellow for the top layer, sand, brown for the middle, clay, and gray for the bottom, rock. It discovered the geology on its own. The two most common algorithms for this are k-means and hierarchical clustering. On the left, k-means. Here, you specify k, which is the number of groups you want. If you say k equals 3, the algorithm finds 3 central points, called centroids, marked by the blue x's, and groups the data around them. On the right, hierarchical clustering. This builds a tree-like structure called a dendrogram. This is useful when you don't know how many groups you should have. You can cut the tree at different levels to see broader or more specific relationships. To summarize, let's look at this comparison table. If you have labeled data, input plus correct output, and your goal is prediction, like forecasting a price, you use supervised learning. If you have unlabeled data, raw input only, and your goal is discovery, finding hidden patterns, you use unsupervised learning. Understanding this distinction is the first step to becoming proficient in data science. Thank you for your attention.